I brought you a present from Seattle. This is actually a company that makes these in Seattle, and I know your little one isn't going to school yet, but they're little lunch notes.
Oh my goodness.
That you can put, and they're all Mr. Rogers quotes.
Thank you so much. That's very lovely of you. Thank you.
Did any of his sort of sayings or what
Let me
resonated
tell
with you
you.
the most?
So every day on the call sheet, they would put Mr. Rogers, one of these kind of Mr. Rogers quotes on the top of the call sheet. And very quickly, I was reading these call sheets going, he's like a philosopher. He's not just a children, I gleaned that from the beginning, not just a children's entertainer. That's just such a disservice to him. But his philosophy was kind of so expansive and broad and at the same time incredibly specific. It was an eye-opener. But the simplicity of his philosophies were like, you can follow these 3 simple rules. Be kind, be kind, be kind. You go, oh, listen with intent, you know, listen properly. If you do the simple things, then the bigger things open up and are easier, I think.
Right.
Although it's easy, it's harder sometimes to do the simplest of things.
Right. He had to work at it, and I guess the rest of us do as well.
Or remind us, like, work at the simple things. But what I loved about him, you know, people said, oh, he was such a saint. And he'd be, and as Joanne, his wife, said, I'm not a saint. I have to work incredibly hard to do these things. It's not easy. It doesn't come naturally. You have to work at it. And you go, it makes him more human, more fallible. You love him more for saying that.
Right. The first scene that made me cry in this movie is the subway scene where kids break out spontaneously in song, which actually happened. What has been your sort of most memorable fan moment that you have had with someone approaching you, possibly not singing you a song? Or maybe they did. I don't know.
There's been a few. There was one time I was in a sporting goods shop and this woman came up to me and went, the dead drop is in the American football. It took me so long. I was going, what? She goes, the dead drop is the message is in the football. I went, sorry, what? And then she's like, aren't you in the Americans? I was like, oh, yes, I am. Sorry, thank you. Thanks, sorry. I was like, oh. She was like, oh, sharp as a tack. Clearly all the writing, not him.
The first scene that you did with Tom Hanks as Fred Rogers, seeing him like that and hearing him slow, still.
Yes.
What was that like?
Magical. You know, I don't envy Tom Hanks, but thankfully he's as big as an icon as Fred Rogers is. So there are similarities in those canvas shoes. But prior to that, everyone on set had watched, by that time, you know, like myself who weren't familiar with Fred Rogers, we'd watched hours of it. So everyone was like, we'd shot 2 weeks by the time he came on. So everyone was like, what's he gonna do? And then he came on and, you know, obviously didn't impersonate, but his embodiment of him was, everyone just went, oh, we're okay. Tom Hanks is here, we're okay.
One last question. Your character has had Old Rabbit growing up. Did you have a favorite toy or stuffed animal? And what did that toy say about who you became in life?
Well, I think it's a very obvious one. I had a teddy that was given to me on the day I was born. It's quite a big one. I called him Ted. And Ted was whomever he could be a cowboy, an astronaut, he could be anything. So all my kind of make-believe play was with Ted. And then, lo and behold, I turned out to be an actor. It's like, Ted was like, yeah, I could have guessed that one. So yeah, Ted's still with me.
Oh, I love that.
I know.
Okay. Thank you so much. Such a pleasure.
Thank you for the
Such a great movie. I work for an NBC station, and so your face is literally the first thing that I see every morning when I get to work. I walk up the stairs, I come out, and there's our framed This Is Us poster. So it's a nice way to start the day.
Yay.
Mr. Rogers talked about how he felt like his show was a platform to sort of answer this calling that he felt to speak to children.
Absolutely.
You have a massive platform with This Is Us every week. Are you acting for someone? Who are you thinking about when you are doing your scenes, if anyone?
You know what? A lot of times I think about, you know, the culture of Black women. I think about, you know, who we are and who people think we are, you know what I mean, versus who we are.
Yeah.
And I like to kind of break open stereotypes and kind of pull them apart, or like just play with the nuances of who we are and have fun showing them to people. You know what I mean? I have fun with it. I love, showing different aspects. I can't speak for all of us. I think that's a ridiculous notion, but there are so many people who do connect with what I'm doing and who feel like it's an accurate representation, you know what I mean, of the parts of who we are. We're so multifaceted. I can't cover everything, but that's why there's all these other beautiful Black actresses out there doing their thing. So it's like part of this whole, and I love being able to represent on that level.
Yeah. And I do think you represented all of us when you were drinking that wine in the cover. Because we got to do that sometimes.
Yeah, I'm every woman. Let's be real.
Okay, I brought this for you. This is from a Seattle company. They actually print everything in Seattle, and they have a Mr. Rogers line of products.
So the funny thing is, I'm like, that's not Tom. I was like, okay,
that's the actual
I'm so used
Mr.
to
Rogers.
actually seeing Tom. Look at Mr. Rogers.
It's so cute.
Gosh,
and it's
hey.
full of his sayings and phrases.
Is this for me?
Yeah, yes, you can keep
Oh my
that.
God, I love it so much. Thank you. Oh.
Did you have a famous, I'm sure you have heard so many of them now from growing up and being in the film, but was there something that he said that sort of resonated with you the most?
This is
hard
good.
to choose,
Listen, look, I'm going to go with this one because this is so good. There's no should or should not when it comes to having feelings. That's amazing.
That is actually my favorite one.
Is it?
Don't apologize for how we feel. It's just how we feel.
It's a feeling.
Yeah.
You know, feelings come and they go, and like it's good to recognize them, right?
Yes.
And not lie about them. That's good.
One of the really great moments for me watching you in this film is where you get this phone call, waking up out of your sleep, you realize it's Mr. Rogers, freak out a little bit. Yeah. Who was the person that you most recently freaked out about meeting? Do you freak out anymore?
You know what? I try not to freak out, but I feel like there was Kelsey Grammer.
Really?
Freaked out, man. I'm a huge Fraser fan, man. I saw him and fangirl. I was like, Kelsey Grammer, I gotta tell you how much I love her. I've watched that series over and over and over. I'm a comedy buff, anything comedy. And when Frasier was on, I feel like it sort of wasn't for my generation at that time. But now that I've grown up and I can watch Frasier, and I'm looking like, oh my gosh, I get this humor, I get this. I don't know that culture. I love learning about that culture, and I think that they just embody their characters so well. And they have such a great ensemble, and I love ensemble stuff because I'm in an ensemble, so it's nice to see how all that energy bounces off each other. So I saw him at a Emmy event, and I fangirled the hell out of Kelsey Grammer.
That means you have to come to Seattle and experience the real Seattle.
Right, look, how that tied in. Can you look at that? Perfect.
Seamless.
Perfect.
Such a pleasure to
Great
meet you.
to meet
Congratulations.
you.
The movie's just wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I found a picture that I wanted to show you.
Holy cow. I was just thinking of that.
Were you?
Yes. We opened the then brand new Seattle Rep and did this epic play about the con artist Soapy Smith.
Yes.
So it was titled The Ballad of Soapy Smith. Yeah.
I know it went to New York after that.
It went to the Public Theater. Yeah,
was that what role did that experience play in sort of launching your career from there?
Well, it played a good hand, in the career. This was wonderful play, monster cast, and as you said, we moved it on to Public Theater. Unbeknownst to you, they cast another person in my role, and in rehearsals, it didn't work out so well, and in the last minute, they called me back to reprise the role, and so vengeance is sweet.
Well, on that note, I wanted to bring you a present from Seattle. This is a Seattle-based company that actually prints everything in Seattle, and it's this Mr. Rogers line, and these are like little cards that you can pass out or leave on someone's pillow when they need it, but it's some of his more notable quotes. And I was wondering if something that he said resonates with you.
Oh, man.
I mean, I know he's said a lot that can resonate with all of us.
I know he said a lot, but just I can't remember any specific lines, but I think he just set an extraordinary example of what we can try to rise to become, and that involves inclusion of everyone and empathy and centeredness on listening to the individual in this, like, very fast-paced period that we're in now, and and a kind of an ugly, mean period that we're living in right now. And I think watching this film and reminding ourselves of Fred Rogers' nature is something that we need.
Yeah. Your character is involved in a somewhat uncomfortable wedding speech situation.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been party to one of those in your own life?
Not that bad, but there have been some pretty sweet and wild little wedding parties directly within the family. Yeah, very memorable.
Which is really also, I think, speaks exactly to what this movie can do. That it, no matter who you are, what your family situation is, parts of this will resonate with you. It's impossible to not
I would
feel
imagine. It. Yeah, remembering the film, there's a quite a lot of story, and I'm sure it'll touch a lot of people. They'll relate.
What the radical kindness that he was sort of known for, what does that mean to you? What is the definition of that for you?
I guess the definition for me, and this is it's just become the word for me today, is inclusion of all.
Yep. That's in there.
All right.
Give that card to someone.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much.